What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the homestead. Another year, 2021. How crazy is that? We've made a few changes to the tool trailer, and I figured we're going to start this year off by giving you guys a tour of the inside. So we did our first tool trailer tour about 6 months ago, and we'd been working in that design, or I'd been working in that design for about 2 years at that point. Now, there were certain aspects that I absolutely loved, but there were others I just couldn't really stand, but I lived with until I had time to redo it. Well, over the past couple weeks, we finally had some time and we've outfitted the entire new setup that I've been looking for. Now, a couple things you'll notice as we walk through this. So if you haven't seen the original, I'll throw a link up in the top corner, watch that, then come back and finish this video. But what you'll notice is I've gone away from open tools everywhere. So in the first design, I had every tool easily accessible, grab it out of a bin and go. But what I often noticed is once all these tools got into a work site, they kind of got scattered about. Pieces of tools, so bits for drills got put in one place, a drill got put in another, and it just wound up being unorganized, slowing me down when I had to hunt for something. Now, I totally get that's on me, that's my workflow, but that's why I made these changes. All right, so before I dive into the details of this, I'm just gonna kind of give you an overall tour of kind of what's here. So I have my main workbench. Underneath that, I have my Paulk style pull-out workbench that sits on an accordion set of legs. I'm not gonna pull out that now because you have seen it in other videos. Up top, I've eliminated the drill storage and gone for just a simple shelf that holds some tool containers, my vacuum, and kind of a grab and go bag. I did retain some cubbies up the middle and some small odds and ends storage. I kept the radial arm saw. We'll get into that in a minute. And then I added some more functionality with some drawers up here and some storage underneath. So now, why did I make these changes? Well, in the initial design, I had a tool chest or tool caddy, tool cart, whatever you want to call it, on this side of the trailer, and it became a dumping ground. It was only supposed to house stuff like layout tools and pliers and drills, drill bits and screwdrivers and all that, but I largely carried a lot of stuff I didn't need. I managed to take the vast majority of that tool cart and put it into one easy grab and go open top tool bag, if you will. Now I can grab that, head in. It keeps me a lot organized on site, which is something I really like. The other big difference was moving away from just open tools for everything into tool containers. So now I can grab a tool container, it contains all of its accessories, and again, I can head into the work site without having to come back and forth the trailer a whole bunch of times. So another example of this is my Makita drills. So I used to have a drill rack that was all spread out here and I had all the bits in drawers, but I constantly was moving back and forth between the house and my trailer finding bits. Well, now I have this set up that I have all my commonly used bits in this handy dandy storage thing that Makita tool cases come with. And this whole unit, with my 2 drills, can come in with me every single time. Up top, I largely kept that unchanged. I still have my storage for my track saws. I really like them being up here. I like that they're out of the way. I like that they're supported all the way along, so I'm not worried about bending or whacking, and they're nice, clean, out of the way, and stored. Although now I don't have all of the screw and nail boxes housed in here like I used to. I just keep 2 down here for the most common ones that I use. Everything else gets stored in my pack-out system, which pulls out from underneath. So I largely went with building out the pack-out system to eliminate all those different types of storage containers or little storage bins I had in the old design. This can now roll right into site. It keeps me a lot more organized, and I have a lot more storage in terms of screws, nails, all the little finishing bits, odds and ends that you might need on site. And when I'm done, it picks up, it rolls right back into its place, and the feet lock, so I don't need to worry about it moving. So the radial arm saw, why did I decide to keep it in? Well, I still think it has merits and I still think I will use it. If I go through this redesign with it remaining as unused, it'll come out in the next one. But a few changes that I did address and what I believe is to be the big reasons why I didn't use it. The first being, I added a longer fence. So hopefully that makes cutting a little bit easier because that short one I had before was never that good. But the biggest reason was I added actual dust collection, and that was the main reason I never used it in the past. Now I've got dust collection off the main blade guard, as well as a catch can in the back, all hooked up to the shop vac underneath. Hopefully that makes a little bit of a difference in here. We'll see how it goes and we'll report back. At the front end of the trailer, I added a little bit of drill storage because I removed the one from the back. So this just has a couple grab and goes of my rigid drills. I ended up moving a bunch of the drills I wasn't using into the garage, and they can stay there for now. And I added a few drawers for the stuff that I still do like to have in a drawer, like layout tools, so your squares, X-Acto knives, all the kind of small odds and ends that you need throughout a project. I added one for the drill bits that I don't take in that Makita drill case, so that is just a standard set of bits, and my hole saw bits. And then I have one big drawer for sandpaper and all that. So with one open tool bag and 3 drawers, I managed to entirely eliminate that 12 or 13 drawer rolling cart that I used to have in here. So a little bit of thought went into what I actually use and what I actually need to carry on a day-to-day basis. Moving to the nose of the trailer on the other side here, I have moved my ladders over to the front. They used to be over there, but I'll show you why they aren't in a second. And I still have my hose reel that holds my 100-foot power cord, so this provides power to the entire trailer. All I need to do is just plug it into a site, kind of like a shore power setup. And that's it for the nose of the trailer. So now we're going to talk about the biggest change that has occurred in here entirely, and that's on this half of the trailer. So if you remember in the old design, I used to have a metal kind of garage toolbox or tool chest that used to sit here. And it had, I think, 8 or 10 or 12 drawers in it, whatever it was. But what I found is that they became an absolute dump zone for crap. If I didn't want it on the work surface, I shoved it into a drawer. And it wound up being more unorganized than it really needed to be. The other big thing I noticed in the old trailer is I never had any storage for sheet goods. And I realized that I pick up a decent amount of sheet goods for a lot of my projects. So hence the major redesign was kind of all around this part of the trailer. And what that meant was including an area that allows me to store sheet goods. And what I've created is an area where I can now slide sheet goods all the way along this side. I have exactly 8 feet to the edge of my door. And this gives me a bunch of room to store sheet goods, bring sheet goods to site without having them clog up my aisleway like they used to. And typically what ended up happening is I would have my miter saw and my table saw, which just sit up the middle of the tool trailer in here. I'd need to go pick up sheet goods, and I'd have nowhere to put them, which meant driving to site, dropping off the saws, and then going and getting that material. Now, no longer an issue. Underneath the sheet goods, I added one more drawer, but the other 2 have largely remained unchanged, so I kind of have odds and ends screws that I don't really need, but they're more specialty type stuff. And I haven't quite figured out how I'm going to rearrange that drawer. I have more clamps and crowbars and all that in the big drawer, and then I have a deep storage, if you will, of safety goods, stuff like that. And then for right now, I've added just a little bit of kind of easy accessible clamps. So I've never really had a good way to store clamps in the trailer before. I'm hoping this works out as a quick kind of grab and go for the trigger clamps, with the main finishing clamps all stored in the bin underneath. So up above the sheet goods storage, I did retain some of the initial cubbies, so they are mounted back in place just a little bit higher. So on the end, I have that drill container that keeps those. I have the rest of this filled with saws. I like saws in here because they are easy to grab and go. I'm typically working outside with them, not inside. And there isn't a lot of secondary components or accessories that need to go with them, so it's a lot easier than, say, lugging a router or drills and constantly having to go back and forth. Alright, so that ends the tool trailer tour. Hopefully it gives you an idea or two if you're putting one of these together for yourself. Go back and watch the first iteration. That has some totally different ideas in that build. But what I've realized is no matter how you set it up, you're going to want to work with it for a while, and you're going to want to make changes. No matter what, it's never going to be perfect the first time around. Thanks a ton for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next one.